Hello everybody, my name is Timothy and I want to welcome you to the Penang Travel Tips YouTube channel. And yes, I just got my haircut, it's much cleaner now. And today I'm going to do another video for the sake of foreigners who are coming to live in Penang, who are going to purchase a property in Penang. And you may have heard of Penang from different sources, and you come, you check out the place, you enjoy it very much, and eventually you got yourself a real estate agent who found for you a condominium or apartment that you love very much. You purchase it, and then you make a discovery that makes you go, huh? What? And today in this video, we are going to talk about a trap that foreigners fall into, or something that you never saw coming. And I can't say for sure whether it is intentional or not, but the result is it may give you a wrong expectation that why you didn't tell me that earlier. Maybe your real estate agent wasn't doing the job of informing you of something vital, or maybe he or she may have informed you but it doesn't quite register until a little while later. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about the trap that you might fall into and how to avoid getting into that, and we'll talk about that when I get back.
Penang streets so bright, every corner a delight. Markets buzz with life, filled with joy and sights. Hidden gems we find, local flavors oh so kind. From the beaches white, warm sun feels just right. Penang my new home, wherever I roam, this place is my own. Penang my new home.
Chapter 1. The trap foreigners fall into. Before I begin, let me say this. I want to ensure that anybody who wants to make Penang his new home is provided all the information so that there is no rude awakenings. Having said that, I have no control over how the real estate agents conduct themselves. If they are hasty to close a sale, they may hold back or downplay some vital information that later on will inconvenience the buyer. And then the buyer finds out and demands, "Why didn't you tell me earlier?" Then comes the lame response, "I don't think it was that important," or "I thought I've told you," or worse, "I didn't know it myself." The result is you're not going to stay silent. You are going to tell all your friends, people who are planning to come to live in Penang, and it will spoil our reputation. I often say that Penang doesn't want to depend on tourism or foreigners coming to live here. But if people want to come and stay with us, we want them to feel welcome. And that starts by ensuring that they know what they ought to know. So, what's the trap you could fall into? Well, if you're buying property in Penang, and for that matter anywhere in Malaysia, one of the first things you'll notice in the title document is the word Freehold or Leasehold, or in Malay, Pegangan Bebas and Pegangan Pajakan. At first glance, it might not seem like a big deal. After all, both let you own the home, right? But here's where many foreigners get caught off guard, because the difference between those two words can determine how long you actually own the property. A freehold title means the land belongs to you indefinitely. You own the property and the land it stands on with no time limit. You can pass it on to your heirs, and as long as you pay your taxes and comply with local laws, it's yours forever. A leasehold title, on the other hand, is like renting the land from the government for a fixed period, most commonly 99 years, though some are shorter. A 99-year lease is called Pajakan, 99 tahun. When that lease period ends, ownership of the land reverts to the state unless you apply and pay to renew it. Now here's where it gets tricky. Many foreigners see a 99-year leasehold on a brand new condo and think that's practically forever. But what they may not realize is that every year the clock is ticking down. If you buy a 30-year-old leasehold property, you don't have 99 years left, you only have 69. In Penang, a number of residential developments, especially in areas like Ban Lepas, Tanjung Tokong, and parts of Jelutong, are built on leasehold land because the plots were originally state-owned or reclaimed. These properties can be more affordable, but the trade-off is the uncertainty that comes later. So while the condo might look perfect today, its title type quietly determines its long-term value and how easy it will be to sell it later. And that's where the real trap begins, which we'll explore in the next chapter. Chapter 2: The Hidden Trap When the Lease Runs Out. So now that we have seen the difference between freehold and leasehold, let's talk about where the trap lies, and it has everything to do with what happens when that lease period runs out. When you buy a leasehold property in Penang, you are essentially buying the right to occupy that land for a fixed time, maybe 99 years, sometimes 60, occasionally even less. But once that time is up, your ownership of the land ends. It doesn't automatically renew, and it doesn't automatically roll over. The land reverts to the state government. When we, the locals, buy a leasehold property, we need to seek state consent to transfer the ownership of that leasehold property from its existing owner to us. As a local, we do not need to seek state consent when we purchase a freehold property. As a foreigner, however, you would need state consent whether purchasing a freehold or leasehold property, so it might not be clear to you whether the property you are buying is on freehold tenure or leasehold. Now, here's the part that catches many people by surprise. Renewing a lease isn't as simple as filling out a form. It requires state approval, and it comes with a premium payment, often running into the tens and even hundreds of thousands of ringgit, depending on the property's location and size. And that's not the only uncertainty. The premium amount and the approval process aren't fixed nationwide. Each state in Malaysia has its own policy. In Penang, renewal isn't guaranteed, and the government decides on a case-by-case basis whether to extend a lease and how much the owner has to pay. Imagine this scenario. A foreigner buys a 25-year-old leasehold condo thinking it's a great long-term investment. 40 years later, when the lease has only 34 years left, the property's value starts to drop. Future buyers hesitate. Banks may be reluctant to give loans, and when it's finally time to renew, the cost can be so high that it wipes out years of appreciation. That's the trap, not understanding that the 99-year lease isn't forever and that renewal is both uncertain and expensive. For foreigners who are planning to make Penang their long-term home, this can turn what seemed like a smart buy into a frustrating and costly surprise. In the next chapter, we'll look at why this issue is particularly important for foreign buyers, especially those under the Malaysia My Second Home program. Chapter 3: Why this trap matters to foreign buyers. For many foreigners, buying property in Penang isn't just an investment, it's the start of a new life. Whether you are coming here under the Malaysia My Second Home program, planning to retire, or just want a base in Southeast Asia, owning a home gives you that sense of permanence. And here's where the leasehold trap becomes especially important for foreigners. Unlike locals, you may not be as familiar with how land ownership works in Malaysia. Actually, a lot of locals aren't familiar about it too, unless they have transacted a few properties. You might come from a country where leasehold renewals are automatic, or where the government guarantees extensions. In Malaysia, and especially in Penang, that's not always the case. A leasehold title can affect more than just your peace of mind. It can affect your resale value because future buyers, both local and foreign, might hesitate to buy a property with only 60 or 70 years left on its lease. It can also affect your inheritance plans since leasehold property isn't a perpetual asset that can be passed down indefinitely. Then there's financing. Some banks are cautious about granting long-term loans for leasehold properties with short tenures remaining. So even if you are not borrowing now, your property might be harder to sell later if buyers can't secure a loan. And don't forget about state consent. Every foreigner purchasing property in Penang needs approval from the Penang State Authority. Adding lease renewal into the mix makes things even more complicated. You are dealing with two separate approval processes, each with its own timeline and requirements. Also, when it comes time to sell that property, the potential buyer also needs state consent, so he has to have an incentive to get the state consent in order to buy your property. Now, this doesn't mean foreigners shouldn't buy leasehold properties in Penang. Some leasehold condos are in excellent locations and many owners are perfectly happy with them. But the key is to go in with your eyes wide open, knowing exactly what you're buying and what it means down the road. And some buyers do say, I'm not going to live for 99 years or for the 53 or 42 years of the remaining lease, and I have no heirs, so why does it matter? Well, for those people, it doesn't. But for some, it does. In the next chapter, we'll talk about how to avoid this trap altogether and what steps you can take before buying a property to protect yourself. Chapter 4: How to avoid the buying property trap. By now, we've seen how the property trap happens and why it matters, especially for foreigners planning to make Penang their home. The good news is, this is a trap you can easily avoid as long as you know what to look for before you buy. The first step is simple: check the title. But even better still, before you even look at a property, ask the real estate agent, is it on freehold land? Don't waste your time looking at properties that are too troublesome to buy and later to dispose. Beware of properties that are built all along the coastline of Penang Island. The coast and the sea belong to the state, and if the sea is filled in and reclaimed, the property is still on state land that is leased out over a fixed tenure, usually 99 years. There are properties on reclaimed land that are enjoying freehold status. And how is that so? Well, the state government has the power to determine whether a leasehold development be converted to freehold, and this can happen under special circumstances such as a joint venture or a privatization agreement where the developer undertakes the reclamation at its own cost, a long-term master development, or policy decisions to encourage high-end foreign investments. In other words, it is the state that determines whether it wants to convert a development from leasehold to freehold when it is built on land that was reclaimed from the sea. Even though the land was man-made, its legal status was designated by the state authority. Now, let's say you have expressed a desire to purchase a condo unit. On its land title or hak milik tanah, look for the words Pegangan Bebas for freehold and Pegangan Pajakan for leasehold. That one line tells you everything about the nature of that property. If it's leasehold, ask your lawyer or property agent how many years remain on the lease. A new development might have close to 99 years left, but an older one could have only 60 or 70. The shorter the remaining lease, the more it can affect the property's value in the long run. Next, consult a reliable conveyancing lawyer, someone familiar with Penang property laws and who will explain clearly what your rights and obligations are. Don't just rely on what the developer or agent tells you. have a professional verify the facts. Then research the background of the project. Is it on reclaimed land? Is it on state land? Has the area had renewals approved before? These details can give you clues about how easy or difficult renewal might be in the future. Also, keep in mind that foreign purchases require state consent regardless of whether the property is freehold or leasehold. Make sure this process is properly applied for and documented, as it confirms your legal right to own that property. And finally, think about your timeline. If you plan to live in Penang for 10 or 15 years, a leasehold property with 80 or 90 years remaining could still be perfectly fine. Leasehold isn't necessarily bad. It's only risky when you don't understand it. Do your homework, get proper advice, and you'll avoid the property trap completely. So there we are, the property trap that sometimes foreigners find themselves going into. But it doesn't have to be a trap if you go in with clarity to understand what you're doing. And over here in Penang, we want you to enjoy coming here and have the least trouble of staying here, to have the best experience. But these are things like landmines that you need to be aware of so that you don't step on them. And on my website, the Penang Travel Tips website, if I do find out that a property is on leasehold land, I will put it in that this is on leasehold land. So when you do your homework to look for properties, maybe you can start there, and this is the URL of my website. And better still, I give you the list of all the condominiums. So you go to all the condominiums one by one. If you heard of the name of the condominiums, then you can go back to that list, look for it, and if I found out that that property is on leasehold land, then I will put that this is leasehold. And the rest of it, you might want to check with first your real estate agent and later the lawyer to find out how many years is left for that particular piece. So you don't get into a situation that ruin your whole stay in Penang. And so that covers this video. I hope you enjoy it, and if you do, please give it a like so that YouTube will show it to more people. And of course, subscribe to the Penang Travel Tips YouTube channel for more videos from me, as well as surf the Penang Travel Tips website for more information, all the information on Penang. And until I see you again in the next video, this is Timothy signing out.